third and final game of the night between LGD and LNG. And we talked a lot about the early game, you know, how LNG can shape that up. But I can say one thing, the mid and late game, Dwan had some great ults. He had some good moments, looked great on Leona, and was our MVP.
Dominated lane as well, had a very good time in the matchup. Especially, you have to notice the Misfortune and Leona combo can instantly kill an AD carry from nowhere. You can proc all of your Sunlight procs just with the consistent damage ticks coming from bullet time.
We've had constant bans of Nautilus tonight, and you put your head together and you go, what's the next best thing? Leona. She sits nicely as well, so... tonight we've had some great Leonas. Dwan definitely been one of them. LNG shaped that game up. They made it theirs 15, 20 minutes in. It was all over.
Yeah.
LGD like to face check things and go in deep to enemy jungle, but they've been given a Philios again, Clement. That's what won them game one.
I'm pretty surprised they got that one.
You and me both.
So Kramer obviously took the MVP in game one, doing 40% of his team's damage in that one. And this time they have a Leona on their side, a very strong bottom lane combo. And LGD, once again, they're going to step up and challenge the synergy between Maple and Xiongxiong, kill mid-jungle duos coming out from them. On the other side, LNG, I feel like this is more of a scaling composition, more of a stable backline, front line, and mid-line type of combo that they have going right here. They do have a good 1-3-1 in the later stages of the game as well.
Okay.
So more win conditions on one side, but a lot of explosiveness from LGD in the early game.
Explosive early game for LGD. Explosiveness. Excuse me. The final game of the night. How we've opened the LPL with IGFPX has been great in its own way. But this needs a conclusion. We need to see who's stronger out of LGD or LNG to kick off the split.
I think all eyes this game. Are going to be on Kramer.
Yeah, I would agree. If anyone missed out from game number one, we noticed that Kramer, Conqueror once again, by the way, favors towards Bloodline, the overheal. There was a lot of lifesteal with Severum attached, and Kramer just did not die.
Nope, he did not. And he actually got a lot of team fights where he didn't even lose HP throughout the fights. He was going triple kill, Severum heals him, everything back up.
And look, Colonel's pointing up. What? They've changed the way Colonel looks at you this time.
This is a very interesting... So this graph is the scaling graph. Okay. Which team is favored at which point in the game, and that is the most confused graph I've seen.
It said ultra late game is LGDs. Okay.
And now we are seeing a different path, Xiongxiong path towards the top side both times, but Mordekaiser isn't a great matchup into the Aatrox, and he's going to try and get his first gank off towards the bottom side here.
Yep. Looks like Rek'Sai shortly behind doing a full clear of the top side here from Peanut. But XX doing the exact same thing he did last game, just different side, if I'm not mistaken. Now walking towards the bottom side, going for Gromp. That's going to be level 3 here for the Jarvan, with LGD's bottom lane pushing up.
Strong level 2 power spike right here coming in from LNG. And I love the use of blue side Rek'Sai. You just have so many open gank paths for you, and that's why it's been such a high priority champion. We're seeing the Conqueror builds this time as well. You know, typically we have seen a more gank-oriented Halo Blades build. But this one is going to give him a little bit more dueling power against the Jarvan.
Yeah, from the Rek'Sai, absolutely. And from Peanut as well. I mean, a lot of people know this player. They know how Peanut is. They've seen him on Rek'Sai before. So this is not an unknown. But looking towards that pathing, the bottom side ready for Scuttle to spawn in 5 seconds. So that'll be control given over to LGD. And the first dragon in 145 is going to be that Cloud as well. So the ability to get that ult movement speed, or rather, excuse me, get that ult CDR nice and early.
Ooh, very good distance anticipation coming in from Flandre. It dodges out on the turret shot there. And something interesting that LNG did in their bottom side that I wanted to point out is that even though they did not leash, they didn't go for the wave push immediately. They did want to have a chance to see if they could get a good gank onto Chance and Kramer. And when that didn't materialize, it also protects him against the incoming blue side Rek'Sai that just loves ganking bottom.
Yep. His ability to make his way through the alcove as well, part of the strength. But FLICKR is smacking Colt in this top lane. I mean, if we're talking skill of top laners this series, FLICKR has looked like the better top laner.
Yeah, he's been playing very well with his early game advantages. What happened is that they knew, I believe they assumed that Jarvan was starting on the top side. In that situation, Colt did have to play more respectfully. And as a Mordekaiser, it's pretty difficult to trade up against an Aatrox. He has better base stats across the board. And his skill combo also does more damage. So a lot of times you have to play with the wave to keep yourself in advantage. And this is exactly what FLICKR has been doing.
Well, he's still brought in Colt once again, but Peanut's been spotted out on a ward. So while FLICKR has been destroying this lane, he stays safe. He knows where Peanut is. That means bottom lane can play aggressive like this. Kramer at half health, pushed all the way back. But this is where the overheal, this is where the bloodline comes into effect. Severum is going to heal him after about 6 autos.
Yeah, this is just one of the parts of Aphelios' kit that I feel can be very underrated at times.
Yeah.
It's actually quite difficult to completely poke him out of lane. Once he has that rotation up, he can just heal the entire thing up, no problem. And also his third rotation when it comes to the Moonshot and the Gravitum, I feel like it's so impactful. It's almost like a mini Ashe arrow in the laning phase. 1450 on the range, and you can instantly switch it into a stun.
Yeah, the slow is insane. The stun is insane. I mean, there's not a lot in the kit that you don't like for Aphelios right now, but able to push back up. Trying to stop the backs here. Excuse me. Duan is actually backing on a ward. Kramer's going to press Gravitum. Stops his backing, and LNG stuck in lane here, while Peanut is once again towards the bottom side.
So just a small correction, it's actually a root. My bad. I have just so many abilities.
But remember, Gravitum also on its auto attack does slow. So you get the best of both worlds. Peanut is in the mid lane. That's a flash on Burrow. Maple takes a while to die, and XX, while he flashed, he was not able to find the knock-up. So Peanut gives first blood to Yuki and walks away.
Yeah, killed straight underneath his tower. That was on point. Chance getting stuck up.
You're wondering what's going to happen here. Me too, Clement, but at this point, good trade-offs here from Kramer onto Duan. So first blood over to LGD, a much better start, but that's not what we complimented them on, or that is what we complimented them on last game. But it was their ability to move into the mid game, not take silly risks. That is what lost them the second game. So far so good, is what I'll leave it at.
Interesting build by Maple. He's not actually going for the faster stacking tier, just needs some HP to survive in this one.
He's decided that you're going towards what could be the Abyssal Mask, or we see the Rod of Ages rise. Still picked up. 10 CS behind though, Maple is at this point, against a blasting one from Yuki. And while we are going through items, look at Colt on the top side. He's opted in straight away for the Maw, or rather the Hex Drinker, excuse me, against FLICKR. So FLICKR going for the Ninja Tabi early. Pretty much blocking each other out, and they both have 6 or rather 7 at this point in the game.
And just to point out that we do see FLICKR going for Ninja Tabi 2, and this is a 4-man gank coming into the bot side, 4v2.
I hope it's not Gunk, Clement. No, I don't want to see Gunk in the bottom side.
Maple must be aware that someone is missing here, but it doesn't look like LNG have... Okay, they're trading back quite fine.
Well, actually, Chance might have to come back to lane here. This is going to be hard. Do Duan and Asura get 6 from this wave? They might, but they're not going to let them. They flash, they go in, and that's the ult, the Moonlight Vigil, to get another kill. LGD survive, and they're going to get some turret plating with the 2 kills.
Perfect scenario coming in for the Moonlight Vigil plus Infernum combo right there, and a really good part of that play was, if you look at the map, they spotted out where the Rise was going, and unfortunately for Maple, he was guessing on the wrong side of the map. He was spotted in the mid-left brush over there, and that instantly promoted the dive.
Now Kramer gets free time to push up the wave, get some of that gold to himself. Only 2 plates left on the bottom lane turret. LNG are going to have to take the trade in the Rift Herald, which Yuki is like, no, 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 no. XX, if you want this, you'll die. Turns onto Maple instead, misses a binding, and now is in a bit of trouble as Duan finds himself the Herald and gets out. So LNG do eventually trade the objective.
clean escape here, but doesn't really make up for the kills that we're seeing happening on Yuki at this point. This is a pretty fed LeBlanc. And with Rek'Sai so far, I still think you're going to see a lot more of these plays coming in. Good flash in from Chance, and oh, look at that layering of CC. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, nice dive from LGD. Something in this series that I guess LGD's performance hasn't been consistent throughout. So good to see in Game 3 that they're measuring up to LNG. They've got their mid lane underway. They've got 2 kills on a LeBlanc pre-10 minutes. And the Aphelios is set to succeed again on Kramer. Close to the Essence Reaver there with the BF Sword and Caulfield's Warhammer. So underway nicely here for LGD.
This should be a very consistent way for them to find advantages as well, so I just want to see them not make silly mistakes, not overreach, and just repeat the same play over and over again. As long as that bot lane tower is up and, you know, Maple is stuck close to his own tower, they have that road open for the 4v2 dive. Leona can tank all of the damage necessary, and Kramer's got the damage.
You'd like to see LGD play consistently throughout. And more to that point as well, see if the repeat gank comes down. See if Yuki keeps roaming down. Peanut right now heading towards the top side, but looks like LNG are going to take the play out of that playbook as Kramer's forced to flash out of the way. He's going to leave Chance to die, it seems. Guan comes in with the ulti over the wall. XX is there with the flag and drag, and Kramer is dead, but TP's being committed as Yuki is going to find his way in. Colt's here as well with the World Ender, but he's just going to trade his life. Flandre has matched. He's looking. Colt is looking hard, but Asura is able to get out in the end. But do they know that Yuki and Peanut are still here? Peanut has ulti, but he's not going to risk it.
That was such a great bait coming in from Flandre. Waits until the last second. Colt flashes and then finds himself in the Death Realm. There's no Asura in sight. He can't get the trade back.
Well, they're going to defend the turret for now. The Rift Herald does get a big shove, shares gold throughout the rest of the team of LNG, and that brings them back within contention. Before that play, LGD were 2,000 gold ahead. Now LNG have caught up there, 500 behind LGD.
Just trading back and forth at that point. So LGD had the right idea. They had all the members moving towards the bottom side. It was just the fact that LNG was faster.
Yep. Dragon's going to be picked up as well. Mountain, let's see what it is. Ocean or Infernal. It's another Infernal Soul. So the Rift is going to be lit in a blaze as we have a look at how this started.
Ooh, really good start to the fight. They see the Realm Warp, and Chance still has to turn around to interrupt that, leaves himself behind, and a good Flash ultimate coming in. Gets the extended knockup from the buff these days, and Cult is actually in a really bad position. Gets instantly tagged by the Braum concussive blows, and watch this. Flandre ults him at the very last second. That was such a baller move, man.
I bet he hated that. Well, I mean, Flandre again looks like the better top laner wins at this point. But we'll shift our eyes down to the bottom side. As LNG push top, you can see bottom turret breaks for LGD for first turret. They're looking towards the inner turret as well. I mean, Kramer's pushing this with Peanut. Chance is spotted around the side. Flandre has to be careful. Solar Flare's there. He doesn't have the ultimate yet available, so Flandre can't 1v1. They've got the Ignite. They've got the kill to Kramer. And now this inner turret looks to drop as well.
That's straight 2 towers going in favor for LGD, plus the kill as well. We didn't get to see the start of that trade, but it looked like LNG themselves opted into side trading and just got caught off guard.
Stuck towards that top lane turret here for LNG. Gold back over to LGD, about 1,000 in fact. Yuki able to pick up some turret plating solo in the mid lane too. So LGD have brought it back into their swing. Now it's about, again, that word consistency and how they push into the mid game.
We have the Infernal coming up in 3 minutes. It's going to be a heavily contested one. And I do want to see... Oh, never mind.
No, what do you want to see, Clement? You got to tell me.
I do want to see both teams and how they set up for objectives. That's something that we've been kind of missing in the series. They just run at each other and try to get these pickoffs, and sometimes it's turned, sometimes it isn't. It's been a bit of a messy fight, but I really want to see a team just own up to an objective area like LGD is doing right now. This is very good on their part. You know, they're setting up tons of vision just around that Drake.
Yeah.
And they know they have the composition that, when you look at it, LNG does have a lot of scaling elements in their comps as well. They don't want this one to necessarily go into a 1-3-1 game.
Hang on, Maple might be caught out here. Flashes immediately away. Summoner down by the likes of Colt. So Maple getting caught with his pants down there. Means that a lot more confidence coming through here from LGD. Through the mid lane, they continue to push. Remember, that Herald is going to be up very shortly. So with that big play, they can start moving towards that objective as well. And while you talk about vision as well, Clement, you look towards the top side. Same there as well. Along the whole of the river, LGD have taken over this map. Control wards throughout. Rift Herald, as I mentioned, that's about 10 seconds off. In fact, it spawned just now. And LGD do have the shove mid. They've got Colton in the top lane who has to ult now. That's going to be huge.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough one. He's not going to have the sustain to last through the entirety of the team fight. Of course, World Ender does give you that extra bonus to healing.
But look at where Yuki is right now. Towards the bottom side, has the shove out, but has teleport available. He's starting to move his way over. In fact, waiting to use the teleport. That turret is ridiculous.
And just looking at the guns that Kramer is currently holding, doesn't have the Infernum for the team fight. Last I checked, it was Severum and the Crescendum. So he's going to have to go close and personal if he wants to contest this.
But something we were discussing off air was picking fights when you're a Philios and what gun you have equipped really influences you. Looks like Kramer's not going to care anyway. Teleport's coming in, Clement.
Who's going to get
Rift
the smite?
Herald, it's taken away by Peanut. And Yuki just runs away. They've got the Herald. They're using the Realm Warp. LNG have been alpha.
Completely. And by the way, Yuki was split pushing that entire time. This is a massive loss for LNG. They grouped up earlier, they did the setup, but they weren't willing to pull the trigger completely.
And that sets up for Infernal. 30 seconds to go. Herald destroys mid lane turret. LGD climb to 2,000 gold lead once again. They're going to reset, look to position back around this Infernal. And LNG, they don't have time to back, it feels like. They're going to stick around and look to contest.
It's coming up in 10 seconds at this point. You know, Kramer's at a good item buy. He's at a lead over Asura at this point. LNG is going to have to be walking into a lot of enemy territory, and I just want to keep very close attention onto Yuki and what angle he's going to come in on. It looks like they're going to look for the Maple snipe before the Drake fight becomes an issue.
They're just going straight out of the pit into the blue area. And XX and Maple playing it cautiously while LGD have free roam. And Gravitum now equipped by Kramer as well. So when you talk about team fighting ability, Kramer's at his peak, almost level 11, it looks like as well. Dragon started, and Infernal going to be the theme of this Rift here tonight. LGD go to number 2 with 2 more to go for the Soul.
A much slower, controlled game we're seeing here. I felt like LNG had multiple chances to actually challenge some of these objective takes, but it doesn't look like they were on the same page whatsoever. Was a bit timid coming into it, and even though they did get their heads into the river, they didn't want to stay around.
Which is interesting considering what we saw in Game 2, where the confidence was most likely there, but it was more so that they were very coordinated. They were on the same page.
Yeah, I think part of it's coming just from the fact that Colt can split push pretty freely against the likes of Maple.
Yep.
He's doing okay in that matchup. You know, Yuki's found a good assassination potential early on as well. So LG leveraging their side lanes quite well. For most of this period, the waves haven't really been bouncing back towards their side of the river.
Yeah, haven't met with too much resistance at this point as well. But I like that Chance roaming between Yuki most of the time here, clearing out vision along the way and setting up the chance for a dive. If someone like Maple comes through, if someone like Flandre matches as well. Yuki free roaming in that top lane right now, in fact. Well, look at the depth of coverage towards the red side. Peanut and Chance move in. They're controlling that area completely, waiting for someone to full swoop to Yuki and the rest of them.
This is much better than what they did Game 1, and exactly what I wanted to see. You know, side lane push advantage into getting vision, into getting catches. This is a standard way you play League of Legends.
Yeah.
And just talking about the bottom lower graph that we just had, currently Yuki dealing the most damage in the game at 3,000.
Okay, well, that makes perfect sense. 202 has the Luden's Echo now with the Fiendish Codex alongside. But LGD here, you can see, just matching LNG, looking to collapse. Aphelios is coming in. That's a Realm Warp. Chance misses the Zenith Blade. So that means Realm Warp is a success. Yeah.
Does go to flash out of Chance for that. So small win for LNG.
Yep. But we're just back to square number one. Very different feeling, I guess, for newer viewers and people out there kind of tuning into the LPL. They'll notice that LGD, LNG, very different feeling, very different style of teams, but more about developing synergy in the early parts of the split, where for IG and FPX, it was about testing the limits of individual players more so than anything. We've got 17 teams, and we're not sure where LNG and LGD fit at the moment. Middle of the pack, I'm expecting. I think we had high expectations at LGD, but it is still early days in the split. So we'll see.
Yeah, and this is a much slower game than what we're accustomed to in the current patch. If you look at Demacia Cup and Kespa, they all landed around 31 minutes with about 26 or 27 kills. So this one has been fairly slow, but controlled from LGD's side. I like what they're doing with this side lanes. And they're willing to push up together. Playing 1-3-1, it's all about holding hands together across the map and extending that vision. They're already setting up pretty well for the Infernal Drake at this point. And it's going to be down to LNG. Like, how are you going to go into these blind areas? How are you going to use maybe members like Xiong Xiong or Duan that can take a little bit of damage and just poke in and grab that territory back?
Because I know you earlier were talking about, if we're just talking about compositions for the time being, that LNG, had the better scaling here. Rise, Mordekaiser, not really misfortune, but in a way. But for LGD, Aphelios is great.
Yeah.
Late game. Like this champion is a bonkers late game.
Yeah, I don't necessarily give LNG the much improved scaling. I would just say that they do have a more 5v5 oriented team fight. LeBlanc and Rek'Sai obviously are more about catching potential than the 5v5. So LNG, even at a gold deficit, they could still pull something out of their hat. But this is very good supplication coming in from LGD.
Yeah, this is a lot cleaner, as you were saying before. The vision really impacting here for LNG, but they are playing safe. And you can see Yuki now pushing up that bottom side lane, while Flandre towards the top side was trying to get some breathing room towards the Baron area. The Baron not on the menu here for LGD at this point. Instead, 20 seconds till that Infernal. They have full control, and LNG just have to watch as LGD set themselves up for an Infernal Assault.
And here should be where it all goes down. They do have to create a front line in front of Asura. It's very easy for her to get picked off. They have to walk in together at this point. And Cult is also creating a great distraction in the top side. He has his teleport to match. LNG are going to be looking for the engage here. Well,
Peanut almost getting caught out. Flandre walking through the turret at this point. That is Cressendom with a bit of graviton attached at the same time. LNG are, however, able to walk into the Dragon, but LGD want to fight.
Yep, LNG have forced themselves into a hard committal. Let's see as Peanut comes in.
Okay, Jarvan will pick up the Infernal. As meanwhile, here comes the Moonlight Vigil once again. Yuki comes low, but Colt is in with a massive flank. Chance re-engages. Here comes the Aatrox into the back line, dealing whopping amounts of damage as the bullet time goes astray. Asura is dead, and Colt still firing away in the back line. Meanwhile, Kramer dies, destroyed by Flandre, who is carrying this fight. And Colt can't lock onto a target. It's a triple kill for the top laner of LNG. It's a Realm Warp worth taking for Maple. And it's Colt who's left by himself, flashed away. Maple does it. And that's the shutdown and the ace going to LNG.
A bit unfortunate for LNG. I think the main problem is that the teleport coming in from Colt was too far on the right side. He didn't really arrive on the scene before LGD was already bleeding out members there. Chance got caught, and Flandre came in at a very good position on top of the ramp. He managed to make his way through that. There was no terrain that was blocking him from the backline anymore, and they were able to clean it up.
All right, Clement, one more time. Show me how this happened, because Flandre just didn't die.
Yeah, to start it off, you could see that Yuki takes a very risky dive into the Dragon Pit. Doesn't really get anything, and look how long it takes for Cult to actually get into the fight. Asura manages to get into the top lane, you know, wastes a lot of cooldowns right there. And just look at poor Kramer. He's sitting inside the death room with FLICKR. There's nothing he can do. And FLICKR with a great Q flash gets in among 3, picks up his sweet triple kill, cleans up the rest of the fight. So this is another synergy issue that I think caused LGD to lose this one. They were actually in a pretty decent position, but they took way too many risks. I don't think Yuki actually needed to full-on commit into that one. He was pretty much out of the fight at the very beginning, and that meant that they had to escape towards the left side. They couldn't stay around and wait for Colt to finish the collapse.
And at some point, you have to look back and say, well, LGD, this is what we talked about. And it's happened yet again. LNG have caught back up in gold. They've got a Baron in front of them. And for the first time in about 10 minutes, they've got control of the river again. And they're waiting for someone to walk through. LGD struggling to clear the mid waves. But LNG are waiting. This is dangerous, especially for Chance. He's not going to be engaged on LNG. Back away.
That's the fear of the Infernum. You can see it in their eyes. It's very difficult to actually keep track of Aphelios and what offhand weapon he has at the point.
True.
That's one of the reasons that a lot of times when playing, and guess what, he did have Infernum, so well done, LNG.
Okay. Well, he's about to run out of ammo on that as well, so if I'm not mistaken, we'll go to Cressendom next. Am I right, Clement?
I can't really tell you.
Well, I'm going to say yes. Okay?
I believe in you.
Trust in me.
And another big thing here is that FLICKR does have the teleport lead.
Yep.
Also with the 4-1-2, you should be okay against Aatrox at this point.
I mean, I think FLICKR right now, a much more impactful teleporter. Rylai's picked up. Looks like Protobelt coming up next as the third item, while Colt has just finished his Maw of Malmortius and is building himself up as we speak. But LNG moving back towards the Baron. And you can see now, Maple much more inclined to match the LeBlanc. Feels a lot more comfortable as he's getting closer towards the Righteous Glory. So LNG right back in this game, and in fact, favoring the 5-on-5 that you were talking about there before, and how hard it is for LGD to execute this next fight.
Yeah, LGD are much more based around pick, and pick only comes with vision advantage most of the time. So they're going to find it very hard to actually walk in. Yuki goes in, doesn't find the chains there, unfortunate for him.
That kind of stuff needs to land. In the last fight we saw, even out of Colt, the Q's landing would have made a bigger difference in the fight. So execution here for LGD, a very big deal in this game number 3.
And you gotta love Flandre's build right here. His build is basically, I'm gonna kill Aphelios whenever I see him.
True.
That's the Rylai already.
And that's what he threatens here in front of the Baron. 3K, this is going down fast into Peanut. He uses the ultimate. Peanut cannot go for a smite still. The power of Mordekaiser compels you as LGD now getting turned on by LNG. That's a good ult by Chance, but no one's there to deal the damage. Kramer is running in. The Moonlight Vigil is there, available to use, but he hasn't done it just yet. Tuan gets tagged by Peanut, but the Realm Warp, they all get out, and they took Chance with them.
It's clean overall fight. That was basic 101 split pushing. Flandre with the TP lead. Colt, you can see it in his summoner cooldown, still doesn't have it, has to respawn bot lane, and there was no real help for him. They couldn't pin Mordekaiser there. They couldn't stop with the 4v5, 2 behind in vision. At least they're going to get this consolation prize. But
at the very least, LNG is saying, well, it's not your soul. That's fine. They've got another 5 minutes to threaten that if you're LGD. Meanwhile, in those 5 minutes, how much damage does LNG do with this Baron? There's going to be a lot. There goes the mid lane turret, and the breakage begins, as at least the wave clear from Kramer is doing quite a bit.
And this is a composition that can tower dive quite easily. If you look at XX, and you ask this question, you know, who actually builds Cinderhulk on his Jarvans?
Yeah.
XX does.
XX does, you're right.
He knows his job on this team, and as long as they see another split pusher somewhere, look at the top and bot wave, someone has to respond to that one. If they see someone, they'll instantly engage on this.
Nope. Half health here for the mid lane. I love that. I love that we're having that discussion about jungle Jarvan and tank versus non-tank, and we just see XX appear the very next game, or series rather. But meanwhile, in this dimension, Maple has picked up the inner turret, and he continues forward. Asura destroyed half the health of that mid lane turret, and he's going for it again. Right now, this is just so hard to deal with if you're LGD. There's none of these side lanes that you can run into and hope to survive. And mid does a hell of a lot of damage, and you need 3-4 people.
It's already one tower taken down with the Baron buff. Peanut is looking for this kill onto Maple.
But XX is nearby. And I feel like if you're a Rise with Righteous Glory, you're happy to take a 1v2 at this point.
Yeah, he has a lot of HP to actually work through. I don't think you can get the burst before someone rotates.
Flandre's doing his own work in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, with Proto Belt now complete, no one wants to be near him either. There's the inner turret in the mid lane. Clement, LNG. They're looking clean with this Baron. And LGD got their head in their hands, wondering what to do next.
Much more experienced team coming in from LNG. They're going to push towards the bot side, and LGD need to engage at some point. They should have done it at the outer turrets. They're basically letting the 1-3-1.
Oh, and the Moonlight Vigil will actually land. Yeah, Gravitum helps out quite a lot, but look at what LGD are committing for this kill. Maple gets away, and the inhibitor's going to go down. LNG don't care. Used everything on Maple. We just got the base.
Yeah, that was a half-hearted attempt, to put it mildly. Two members trying to get the catch. No chains landed. Ult used, but Maple gets away scot-free once again. Pops his Righteous Glory and is out of there.
So what are we learning about LGD this game, Clement?
I think their shot calling needs some work.
Okay, so
Colt is obviously very young.
Yeah.
I think from most of it, what you can see.
I think you can see the skill out of the player. And
yeah.
The mechanics out of the player is good. But you're right, the shot calling.
This is what I say about LPL teams, is it's always about synergy and always about cohesion. You need to know what your team is playing towards most of the time, and you need to practice that. The greatest equalizer in esports is time. Like, you only have set amount of time to practice one composition, be good at it, be familiar at it.
Very true.
And LGD has always been that team that, it's kind of stuck in between where they really want to go. Yuki was actually a huge Azir player last split. Was his most played champion. And they tried to time the power scaling up with Kramer's Ezreal, and that just didn't work out. So I really want to see what this LGD roster does. I think they have a lot of potential in their pieces.
But it's a long road,
yeah,
right?
It's just the direction they have to set first.
Whereas maybe for LNG, it's a bit more realistic within the split. I mean, that's the curiosity, isn't it? That the hope wasn't there for XX and Maple, but I think a lot of analysts put hope in Peanut coming into the roster looking strong. The potential of the rookies that we see in front of us in Chance and Colt.
I mean, if you look at LNG and what they've been doing, it's a very clear goal that they're just going to have Xiong as the main initiator throughout most of these team fights. He has a very defined way that he plays the game. He hard forces ganks, he hard forces initiations. But if the rest of the team can follow up in the right conditions, that's actually a plus for your team.
Plus, you said he's a dominating voice, like he was shot caller before. And now coming into this roster, I'm curious at the dynamic between him, Flandre, and Dwan. As we saw in 2019, that Dwan was a very dominating voice, but Peanut has to be careful there. We're 32 minutes in. We're waiting for that next Baron. LNG were able to break the base towards the bottom side. Now looking towards the Infernal to deny that soul away from LGD.
The most important thing for me is actually just playing keep away for Kramer. Look at his items. He does have the QSS complete, so he can pop out of the Death Realm if necessary. This will be the Dragon Soul for LGD and represent a good chance for them to get themselves back into the game. They could take the team fight off of the Soul if they get it.
LGD are hell-bent on contesting this one right now. Peanut over the wall, but they know he's there. Flutter takes him to the Death Realm, so LGD run in. The Dragon has been taken away by the Jarvan, so it's 3 apiece. And LGD wondering, do they go in now? Colt finds himself a pullback onto Flandre, but that's it.
Still a lot of ultimates up. Kramer still holding on to his Moonlight Vigil, and LNG aren't willing to push this one further.
No, but look at the bottom wave. Someone actually has to deal with that. There's super minions crashing into the base. LGD are just going to leave it up to the Aatrox, but that's while they think about getting the Baron.
This is very measured play from LNG. They didn't engage because they knew they could put themselves in an even higher percentage play here. Forcing someone back, they're going to have full control of the Baron pit at this point.
Very close. Nexus turret almost drops down. Colt's going to make sure that wave gets nowhere near the turret for now. You can see LGD were waiting for that pick play in the brush. But LNG didn't bite. They dropped the ward. They pushed them away. And it's back to square one. Baron sitting there and waiting. And LNG have the gold lead. They have the item advantage. And they have the team fight advantage as we were talking about before.
Yep, and also, they have a very simple way to play this game. Just wait until someone has to teleport from the bot side. The inhibitor is not coming up until another minute, so should still be full control over to LNG.
Did they just start the Baron again? Remember last time LNG just decided to rush it and played with LGD's hearts in the process. They're starting it again. It's round 2.
All right, we need to see Cult teleport and join this fight as well.
Remember, Death Realm's available. Look, watch Flandre. Death Realm into Peanut. Now, where's the smite? It comes through eventually, but wow, that ult from Kramer. The Solar Flare to follow up. He has to flash because XX has dunked him. Flandre comes out of the Death Realm, and this Mordekaiser is massive. Colt scavenges whatever he can, but the fight's over, and with it, maybe the game.
Yeah, this looks like GG for LGD. They couldn't really get any purchase into the Baron Pit itself. I felt the teleport was actually very late coming in from Cult. It was not synchronized with Yuki whatsoever, and they sort of walk in haphazardly one by one. Peanut accidentally pulls Flandre right next to Yuki as he comes out of Death Realm.
And look, Flandre's franked the tank right now. He doesn't die, and he whops a mighty punch. 7-1-4 here on the top lane, Mordekaiser. LNG strike true. They knock down LGD, and there's a lot to be developed this season. This is where they start.
A new hope for this roster in LNG. They were the guys that took down IG, surprised everyone in the playoffs 3-0, but it wasn't enough. They went into rebuilding immediately afterwards, and this is what they're showing us right now. Very clear shot calling coming in from the mid and jungle, able to outmaneuver LGD in most instances.
The question really stands, you know, what new dynamic can we see with this team that we haven't already seen in this matchup? How does LNG perform against those higher up teams? Because LGD gave them a run for their money at some points, but these last 2 games, when LNG took control, they dominated, and they smacked and sat LGD right back in their place.
If you're looking at LNG from the previous split, the thing they need the most is actually early game presence coming in from their mid jungle.
Yeah.
Because the last time around, they didn't really have that much cover for Asura, even though he was the main carry on the team. He did actually get his lane constantly invaded on.